What do you make of today's government announcement on the back of some dire predictions from NPHET as to what might actually happen if we weren't to have continued restrictions?
I find it very surprising. I mean, normally people who advise the government are asked to give advice within certain parameters, and the government was quite clear up to Sunday that they weren't going to countenance discrimination between people who are vaccinated and people who aren't. That obviously vaccination was to be entirely voluntary, there was to be no coercion or any pressure applied, and that was the way it's always been in Ireland. And then NPHET come out and recommend something else, and the government do a complete U-turn. So that's surprising. I mean, normally a government, as I say, would ask an advisory body to make recommendations, say, look, these are the parameters, what can we do to make things as safe as possible within these parameters? NPHET obviously doesn't have any particular regard to the government's parameters, and the government just did a U-turn. The second thing is with regard to the dire predictions. I mean, one of the many recommendations, I think there were 11 in total of the COVID-19 committee, none of which have been implemented, was that NPHET would publish its modelling code, and that an international peer review would be commissioned into its modelling, because obviously this is supposed to be based on science, and peer review is the essence of science, that you put forward an idea and it's reviewed by your peers and it holds up or it doesn't. Now, no modelling has taken place. We know that some of NPHET's predictions have come to pass, many of them haven't, and in some instances the modelling has looked a bit suspect. In particular, if I could point to when NPHET issued dire predictions in October and required a lockdown, by the time the lockdown was announced and implemented by the government, the predictions that NPHET had made, and that was only a couple of days later, based on an infection rate which NPHET estimated to be X, it simply didn't come to pass and it didn't hold up. So I'm not a modelling expert, I can't go behind the NPHET modelling, but there are people who can, and the government should be, I think, looking at this stage, because I don't expect that this is the last dire prediction that NPHET are going to make. I don't expect that this is going to be the last recommendation for restrictions. I do expect that we're going to have more of those, particularly if this is the recommendations we're getting right in the middle of summer. What recommendations are going to be put in place next Halloween, and we do need to know that that modelling is robust and reliable, particularly if we're going to be locking down again, which to me seems probable.